Hello, I'm Jovan Johnson with the IMF Tracker. This week, Jamaica passes first IMF test. BOJ says investors still cautious despite IMF deal, and IMF agreement makes no provision for external shocks. These stories in a moment, but first, our trivia. What is the meaning of the term inflation? Stay tuned to the answer coming up at the end of the program. Jamaica is now awaiting another $30 million disbursement from the IMF. The money is to be released once the IMF board ratifies the assessment of its staff-level team, which last week reported that Jamaica has passed the first quarter test. Some of the targets met for the quarter included the primary surplus, the net international reserves, and spending on social protection programs. And under the agreement with the IMF, Jamaica must pass 12 pieces of legislation to support its economic reform program. 4 of these legislation have already gone before the Parliament. Tax Administration Jamaica has benefited from the most far-reaching legislative amendments, with the entity becoming a semi-autonomous revenue agency. One other major legislative change involves amendments to a range of tax-based acts to harmonize the treatment of charitable organizations for the purpose of taxation and connected matters. This means, under the Charities Bill to be tabled in September, charitable organizations will need to apply for eligibility since they will no longer be granted exemptions under the tax acts. The Bank of Jamaica says investors have remained cautious about the possible short-term market impacts despite the current IMF deal. The central bank cites a slide in the Jamaican dollar as evidence, but BOJ Governor Brian Winter says projections for growth and inflation for the current fiscal year reflect anticipated improvement in investor confidence as well as continued expansion in the global economy. Jamaica's agreement with the IMF has made no provision for external economic shocks such as hurricane. However, the government has set aside what some consider a lowly sum of $229 million in the event of natural disasters. And to end our program this week, the answer to our trivia. The term inflation means the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services rises. And that's where we end our trek this week on the IMF Tracker. I'm Jovan Johnson.